What is initiation? Quote, we take spiritual initiation when we become conscious of the divine within us and thereby contact the divine without us. Dion Fortune. End quote. Throughout our lives, we undergo many trials regardless of our pursuits. An initiation occurs when an event that differentiates our life experience from what is led to this point and the new direction we are now traveling. Initiations can sometimes take the form of a great trial or even necessitate a great change or interrupt in how we live our lives. Most importantly, the greatest initiations we will undergo strike us immediately upon embarking on the spiritual journey. Therefore, the greater the heights our souls aspire to ascend to will determine the levels of initiations we will and must face. I promise you this, you will never have to face any of these initiations alone. Understand that we together are already undergoing our first great initiation as we speak. We are already being initiated in the penultimate, quasi-spiritual, physical trials of what it means to be human. This fact can only lead us to one mind-blowing truth I want you all to hold close to your core. Neither you nor I are human yet. Oxford Languages defines human as relating to or characteristics of people or human beings, especially a person as distinguished from an animal. Now, etymologically speaking, hu indicates the spirit, and man comes from the manas, which indicates the mind. So to truly be human, we must have our spirit in control of our mind. So the implication presented here becomes very obvious and equally troubling to most of us. Are you human? Are you what you should be? Truly understanding what it means to be human involves us learning to understand ourselves as a microcosmos, an entire cosmos with all the energy and space within it, all contained within your heart. That is a microcosmos. This means you, I, and everyone we will ever meet are the base quantum algorithms that the rest of the universe is running on. Following this concept and applying the as above, so below principle, the existence of the macrocosmos becomes understandable. What is inside you is reflected across the universe, and what's going on in the universe is reflected within you. Worlds colliding, stars bursting, new worlds forming, and planets healing, all happening within and without. Becoming conscious of this cosmic flow allows every one of you to become the axis mundi of your reality, the architect of your story. It is written that the Elohim, a Hebrew term meaning the gods and the goddesses, i.e., the cosmo creators, put that human being wherein the universe was reflected on the earth. There were many and are symbolized by the atom Kadmon. Atom Kadmon is a humanity, all the human beings together, but in communion with the universe. This is God incarnated in the flesh. Understand? Only together as the community and through mastery of spirit over mind, we again may become the Atom Kadmon, or God incarnated in the flesh. Some denominations call it ascension, rapture, transcendence, and even the second coming. Do you see where that is going? Yet it's never as easy as it sounds. In the original division of the female from the male, there was a trauma placed there, which divides us to this day. These two perspectives on the cosmos embody many approaches and pathways back to paradise. If only we can balance them. It is because masculine and feminine are truly divine cosmic forces. These cannot be denied, and at times may overwhelm us, causing more pain, trauma, and even confusion between the genders. Make no mistake, in knowing all of time has carved an even deeper chasm between us all. Yet, this can be overcome in less than one human lifetime. It takes dedication and lifestyle changes. But I do believe the glory at the end of the journey is well worth the grind. In the first place, we will plant our flag in the ground of this eternal battlefield, will be the subject of our animal ego, that thing that keeps us from becoming human. To be clear, ego is the mind. It is the self, the you that has created an image full of expectations, attachments, and anxieties. Ego is an animal that seeks to satisfy itself at the detriment of your own evolution. Ego and self-deification cause an individual to turn demonic and devolve into an animal, then a parasite, then a mineral, and finally an element before the universe reconstitutes them into a new quantum expression. This wheel of evolution goes up as far as it goes down, and humanity has only just hit its first height. Yet, just as the seemingly mythical Atlantis, we may fall just as far as we've risen. Seek our fellow kinsfolk even now, devolving into primates in the streets of our concrete jungles as examples, these great and terrible rat utopias in which we find ourselves. In other words, this isn't a new problem. The wheel of fortune, agony and ecstasy, and even the ideas of chaos versus order are all expressions of this truth. A truth our species has already burned into our genetic memory. We can be righteous or terrible, but both equally great. This is also the most dangerous deception the ego can entrap us within. The idea that we are acting righteous when we are not. The laws of evolution and devolution also exist on all planes. Therefore, none of us can escape this wheel, as we may either ride it upward or be ground to dust with our impurities. Every action, word, and thought turns this wheel. So when we say control the ego, we mean control your mind. You cannot control it with any other force outside of spirit. Spirit is the essence of your innermost, or the God of your soul that lives within you. Once we reached the animal plane, the kingdom or world of animals, we all gain the ability to choose in every moment the path of our own devolution or evolution. Now look around you in your social life and marvel at how many people you may know or have known that would be completely normal having a horse's head, or a dog's, a pig's, maybe even a duck. If anything, we'd hope to see a snake or a shark or even a jackass coming from a mile away. Am I right? The same applies to our own personas in any given moment. What kind of animal were you when you got up this morning? As animals, we choose the path of the human being, meaning each of you, individually and freely, choosing to embark on the spiritual path to become a truly real and authentic human being. That is what we call initiation. Initiation is the process by which we can enter the level where we are called a human being, with millions of souls incarnating every year since the moment the first human beings evolved amongst us. Our species and culture did not remain human. What we find ourselves in our world awash in now isn't even animalistic anymore. I dare say we've devolved so far down the wheel of fortune that we have begun to embrace and defend the demonic across our society. Kids shows, fashion, sports, and gaming are all becoming infernally machined engines for churning out psychologically and emotionally broken people who then fall prey inevitably to their own darker selves. Eventually, the victims are turned into perpetrators, and the process threatens to become endless unless we stop it now. Every one of us, starting with you, must all take up the spiral path. Make your journey the one to become a human being, setting our endeavors to evolve as far as we can in our life's story. A person striving on this path will shine their light across the cosmos. Therefore, many of us forming a movement can and will alter the course of our entire world. Feel that with me for but a moment. All of us spirit folk walking each other home. Ram Dass, and I quote, "We are all just walking each other home," end quote. Knowing this is our role, and then committing to mastering that aspect of the human story, and then guiding others to that mastery, that is another initiation. So then, with as many times as we've mentioned and defined the word, let us move into understanding the origins and then the purposes of initiations. And yes, there are many, yet these all lead us into the reversing of our own devolution into animals and eventually demons. Let your eyes be open now to the reality that demons walk among us today. They are in our shows, our music, and on our streets. Where did they come from? How are they part of this divine comedy? Long ago, when the souls were learning how to enter the human kingdom, they were learning how to create the human emotion or an astral body, the human mind or mental body, and the human will or causal body. The process of creating the internal bodies is what we call initiations. These creations initiate the soul into the human kingdom. At the same time, there were other beings with other energies fighting to initiate their own souls into the natural kingdom to serve the evolution and devolution in nature. Demons serve nature in the way of destruction, deception, and corruption. Thus, when nature reaches the level of the human intellectual animal, demons start to invert the animal humans towards the abyss, completing the process of devolution in nature all the way to the abyss. As initiate souls as well, the demons serve in order to gain access into our current realm or our current incarnation, so as to usher animal ego driven souls into the abyss. Now, I would never condemn a demon, but I would never follow one. It is its nature, and I have mine. This means there are light, good, or white initiations, and dark, bad, or black initiations. Naturally, these opposing forces are organizationally established across all realms under the names the White Lodge and the Black Lodge. Black Lodge is a term that describes the multitude of creatures who seek power, glory, fear, envy, lust, vengeance, domination, etc., and use whatever means necessary to get what they want. In other words, they are ruled by desire and use desire to manipulate others. It is called black because it is corrupted by the ego, desire, attachment, and can only lead to emotional, psychological, and spiritual darkness. Typical of a practitioner of the Black Lodge's perspectives is the use of aggression and deception to force desired outcomes over the natural order or will of God. It is a truly tragic indicator that we may be living in the end times when we see so many intelligent people following and teaching darkness from the Black Lodge, especially when most of these believe they are furthering the work of light. This forms an easily readable dichotomy across spiritual practices in spiritual denominations and how those affect modern religious belief systems. As light and dark contend for the souls of humankind, our pop culture reflects that as stories of the light side and the dark side. Compassion and cruelty are powerful narratives right now alongside the argument of the justified villain or the corrupted hero. You even have Star Wars with Jedi in their white and blue robes opposed by black and red Sith robed. There is even the insistence that you cannot practice both, and it should be obvious what is going on there. The truth in our hearts is shining forth, but you must make your heart shine angelic instead of demonic. You must choose in every moment between light and dark. Then abandon all the connections and teachings you live with that stem from the Black Lodge. Remember the lesson from those movies. Sith destroy themselves and all they love. Meanwhile, Jedi save the universe and all they love. Thematically speaking, which one would you rather spend your life doing? The light or the dark, the Sith or the Jedi, destruction or creation? Humans' soul, perfection, is the single point of all religions. It is the beast man and his egotistical misunderstandings that has corrupted our religions and stated instead that we all need to believe, that what we all need is to believe alone. This is an infernal lie. No sacred text says that if we simply believe that we are saved, that we are. What about our great I, our demonic ego, which bars us from entry, and until those aggregates are purified within us, we remain where we are, in hell and in suffering. For centuries, people have believed, but the suffering continues unending. Belief cannot change anything alone. Nowhere in the universe did any deity create with beliefs. Creation is action. It is cause and effect. Therefore, we need a plan. We need to act now. And that plan needs to work. You must get off your butt. Move. How much of your life is already spent simply believing in things, simply studying and not doing? The only thing that matters is change, which requires action. Action that is directed towards progress. We need telesis, a Greek term meaning progress through the attainment of a desired end by the application of intelligent effort. This summarizes beautifully and simply the work of the initiate. We find now that the purpose of the initiate is to do the work of reuniting the earthly and the heavenly, or bringing together the as above with the so below, creating a new here and now. Thus, accomplishment of the initiations leads one to unite soul with spirit, to become purified, and then made one with our innermost, the source or God. This is our mission. Through the culmination of this union is accomplished through steps and direct experience, not belief, but through action. This is the same from the creation of the soul to the awakening of the consciousness. Beliefs do not awaken anything, nor do they liberate us from the yoke of the mortal struggle. Remember, all the world's a stage, and it's you who determines whether or not this stage, this story, bears tragedy or triumph. It is more useful to you to think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I was a better person? Or isn't it better to just be a better person? If you choose the latter, though, be warned. You just entered an initiation, and initiations have a price to be paid, not in gold, but with an event called the ordeal. Quote, the 4 ordeals within the White Lodge are in the order to examine the White Order's disciples' moral principles. There are many persons who have passed these ordeals within the very struggle of life, within the daily battle of obtaining their daily bread. End quote. Samael Aun Weor, The Revolution of Beelzebub. The initiatic ordeals are given to disciples to measure the state of their psyche, and thus the quality of their psychological work. Ordeals are never to be presented to us by anyone as a requirement for spiritual development or entry into some group. These can only be created and presented to us in our own lives by our innermost divinity as a part of a divine plan to test us in our efforts at enlightenment. Only your innermost knows what you need to learn and how you need to learn it. The following examples, of which there will be four, are reflections of the qualities of the four elements of nature as found in the four elemental ordeals. Fire. The student faces the fire of criticism and must respond with love, patience, equanimity, etc. Quote, the candidate is exposed to this ordeal in order to examine his serenity and sweetness. The wrathful and choleric inevitably fail this ordeal. The candidate experiences being persecuted, insulted, wronged, etc. End quote. Samael Aun Weor, The Perfect Matrimony. Water tests the disciples' altruism and philanthropy. Quote, the candidate is thrown into the ocean and believes himself to be drowning. Those who do not know how to adapt themselves to the various social conditions of life, those who do not know how to live among the poor, those who, after being shipwrecked in the ocean of life, reject the struggle and prefer to die, they are the weak ones. Inevitably, they fail in the order of water. Samael Aun Weor, The Perfect Matrimony. End quote. Air measures the disciples' capacity for resistance against great adversities and for detachment from material things. Quote, those who despair because they lose something or someone, those who fear poverty, those who are not willing to lose what they love the most, fail in the ordeal of air. The candidate is thrown into the depths of a precipice. The weak ones cry out and return terrified to the physical body. End quote. Samael Aun Weor, The Perfect Matrimony. Earth tests the disciples' ability to adapt to the inconveniences of life. Quote, we must learn how to take advantage of the worst adversities. The worst adversities bring us the best opportunities. We must learn to smile before all adversities. This is the law. Those who succumb to pain before the adversities of existence cannot victoriously pass the ordeal of earth. In the superior worlds, the candidate finds himself between two enormous mountains that menacingly close in upon him. If the candidate screams with horror, he then returns as a failure into his physical body. However, if he is serene, he becomes victorious and is received in the children's chamber with great festivity and immense happiness. End quote. Samael Aun Weor, The Perfect Matrimony. Undergoing these ordeals is never a small feat. They test us to our core, utilizing the four elements themselves to temper our soul against every perspective we could possibly see through good and bad. We may not be the type of thief that steals bread to feed ourselves, but we are the kind that gives that bread to feed the hungry child. It's never a question of who you say you are, but a matter of you being that person when no one is looking and you've got nothing to lose and none of it even matters. Quote, candidates aspiring to membership in the religious orders underwent severe tests to prove their worthiness. These ordeals were called initiations. End quote. Manly P. Hall. Between the existentialism of our society and the nihilism in our education, we must extricate ourselves from the mental, emotional, and spiritual illnesses these have led us into. The ancient pharaohs faced the nastiest of manifestations of the seven infernal virtues in their age, defeating them, and by their own accounts, reaching a level of deification in the process. Our problems since then moved into the suprasensory world, the suprasensory worlds of dreams and egos, before finally manifesting themselves again as legion now in our fashion, our games, our entertainment. The time has come again for the modern priest kings and priest queens to come into their divine powers and defeat these hordes of raiders who pillage our soul's potential. Now, I'd like to tell you about the first initiations. They sound pretty epic, and you should be marveled and mystified at the mere mention of such a thing. Even as minor initiations, they can be harrowing or disheartening. failure is to be expected. Instant success is not to be expected. And I want you to rejoice when you do fail, because it only means you've learned how not to do it. Take the lesson and keep trying. Just like with breathwork or meditation, it even took me a whole bunch of attempts, probably over a dozen, before I finally felt something, before I finally saw something, before I finally started to ascend above my body. Practice makes perfect, and effort makes the dream work. I want you to see this stage of your development as preparing to hike up the mountain. It sounds daunting, and no joke, that mountain is huge. To ensure our success, we need to train, we need to study up, we have to get our diet in order. Most importantly of all, we have to make it happen. The mystical experiences that will greet you are wide in variety and usually unique to the individual. In summary, we've introduced you here to the initiatic concepts, meanings, and given you an understanding of the initiation, the ordeal, and the 4 elements involved. At this point, I'd like you to experience with these in your own lives, to hold these experiences and to have them and to hold them close. Really chew on and digest these ideas. Use this process to guide yourself in preparation for your first minor initiations. Meditation and breath work is the quickest and easiest way to take you there. And I want to thank you for taking this time to join me in magnifying your knowledge and recognize your endeavor in your journey to become a true human being. We at Abundance Energy thank you. We ask you to transmute this knowledge into wisdom, take it into your daily life, be blessed, and live enlightened. This work is dedicated to the White Lodge, the great Brotherhood of Light. May all humanity have joy. Sources for this course include The Great Rebellion, The Perfect Matrimony, and The Three Mountains by Samael Aun Weor. Excerpts from the talks of Ram Dass, from the Be Here Now Network, quotes from visionary thinkers Manly P. Hall and Dion Fortune, and philosophical thoughts from the minds of the brilliant Dr. Jordan Peterson, as well as the founder of Man Talks, Beaton.